Steve mentioned, I'm Matt Prescott. I'm a team lead within the design and placemaking team here at MHCLG. And one of my responsibilities is to oversee the Design Code Pathfinders program as part of my wider work to sort of look at design code implementation and practice. So as Steve mentioned, the session today is going to be on sort of design codes and sort of post-adoption. So looking at how they're working in practice and how they can sort of work best for development management officers in their day-to-day. So some of the things I just want to talk over for the next sort of 10, 12 minutes or so is what are design codes. I'd also like to sort of set the current sort of statutory context around design codes and design. And finally, I'll just talk you through what we've been doing over the past few years on the design code pilot and Pathfinders testing programs. So to kick off with, what are design codes? So as set out in the NMDC, a design code is a set of simple, concise, illustrated design requirements that are visual and numerical wherever possible to provide specific detail parameters for the physical development of a site or area. So they will allow for binary decision making with language like must and will. And through setting out specific parameters, they're intended to give greater clarity and certainty to users of the planning system, including applicants, local authorities, and communities, about the design expectations for an area. Now, design guides are different documents and are documents providing guidance on how development can be carried out in accordance with good design practice and will typically use language more like shoulds and coulds. But I should emphasize, of course, that design codes themselves can include elements of guidance where it's appropriate. For the context of this discussion, when we talk about design codes, I'm talking about LPA-led design codes, i.e. those which are produced by the local planning authority and given weight in decision making, whether through a local plan or a supplementary planning document. And finally, I just want to emphasize that design codes, as illustrated by the graphic on the right here, which is in the NMDC, they can apply at various different scales. So moving on now to the background on policy and guidance. So good design and placemaking has experienced elevated status in national policy and practice in recent years, which is obviously great. This started back in 2017, where the Housing White Paper emphasised the importance of quality as well as the quantity of homes that are brought forward. Design quality has also been strengthened in national policy through the NPPF and also associated guidance with the National Design Guide and National Model Design Code, which were both published in recent years as well. And the previous government also convened the Building Better, Building Beautiful Commission in 2019, from which the Office for Place has been created to pioneer design and beauty within the planning system. In terms of the national policy context, in 2021 it was, the NPPF was updated to provide greater emphasis on granting permission for well-designed schemes and repausing it for poor quality schemes. Chapter 12 in particular focuses on achieving well-designed places and explains how design should influence plan making and decision taking. And there have been other updates as well to the NPPF that reflect the elevated status of design quality and beauty. For example, making beauty and placemaking a strategic objective of the planning system and setting out an expectation that local planning authorities will produce design codes or design guides for their area. So as part of the planning practice guidance suite, we have, as I mentioned, introduced national design guidance. So this includes the National Design Guide, which was published in 2019 and sets out what we see as 10 core characteristics of well-designed places. Hello? Can you still hear me all right? Sorry.
Yeah, I can still hear you, but you dropped off your sharing of your...
Right, yeah, sorry, I lost my little video bubble there. Can you see that again all right?
Not yet, no.
Sorry about this. I think it just decided to stop sharing.
There you go, that's come back up again.
Right, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's up. You're on the first slide there. You're on the opening slide at the moment. There you go. Thanks, Matt.
Lovely. No, thank you. Sorry about that. Right, so
Oh yeah.
as I was saying, the National Design Guidance was published in 2019 and sets out 10 characteristics of well-designed places, and they are listed on the screen there on the left-hand side. And these characteristics work together to create a place's physical character, to nurture and sustain sense of community, and to positively address environmental issues affecting climate. In 2021, we also published the National Model Design Code, which gives direction to local authorities on how to translate these 10 characteristics into a local design code. And it's important to note that, as in the NPPF, in the absence of local design codes and local design guides, these documents should be used to inform planning decisions locally. And next, on to the sort of legislative context, and I'm sure many of you will be aware that we introduced the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act last year. And through this, there was a requirement introduced that all local planning authorities should prepare a design code at their spatial scale, what's commonly referred to as an authority-wide code. Now, I'm sure you're also aware that through the NPPF consultation, which closed on Tuesday, we also consulted on whether LPA efforts should focus more on the preparation of localized design codes, master plans, design guides for areas of most or sort of greatest potential for change. So question 5 in that consultation did ask whether design code should move towards supporting the spatial visions of local plans. And obviously we're going to be in the process of analysing those responses, and we would anticipate getting a response out, I suspect, in the next few months. Also, through the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act, as relevant to design codes, is a change to the plan making framework, which gives greater weight to plans in decision making, but also introduces this new part of the development plan called supplementary plans, which which can introduce new policy and will have the same status as the local plan. And I think finally on this, just want to highlight that we are in the process of reviewing and consolidating the National Design Guidance just to make sure this aligns with the latest policy and legislative changes. Moving on then finally to the NMDC Pilot and Design Code Pathfinders program. So in 2021, we introduced the NMDC pilot testing program, where we worked with 14 local authorities to test different aspects of the process and content of the NMDC across a variety of areas and a variety of contexts. From that, we drew certain key learnings, which includes, as many of you will be aware, that producing a design code does take time, does require particular skills and resources, especially around things like community engagement. That different approaches are necessary for different areas, given that some places are inherently more challenging and complex than others. That viability is critical, and understanding its role at the start of the process is important. And finally, that community knowledge is a valuable resource which should be taken advantage of. Then in 2022, we launched the Design Code Pathfinder program, where we selected 25 Pathfinder authorities, including neighbourhood planning groups, to prepare a design code over the course of the year. Now, these Pathfinders had discretion of the scale at which they wanted to code, as well as the contents of their design code, so it could obviously address the sort of design issues of greatest importance to their area. And on the right-hand side here, you'll see a visual representation of where these authorities were based, as well as the scale at which they decided to code. So this program, taking some of the general lessons we learned, was that a number of Pathfinders have highlighted that this work is boosting the status of design within their authority, particularly among elected members, which is fantastic. That there's no one size fits all, and it is difficult to decide on the level of detail needed in the code and making sure it's specific to their area, i.e., it addresses the particular challenges that their area is facing. It can also be challenging to develop a code that doesn't stifle design while remaining flexible where needed to cover a large area, such as an authority, but also needs to carry weight and certainty in decision-making processes. Another challenge was the number of people to consult with, and an expectation for continued wide and deep engagement during code production. Ensuring it does not become too big and remains functional and usable was also a difficulty. Understanding that obviously the code needs to be used by a variety of different people, including applicants and, of course, development management officers. And then also that time and resource is poor in a lot of authorities. And this isn't just in relation to design, but also to other necessary fields. And consequently input from a wide range of, or the need for a wide range of sort of disciplines can lead to some dependency on consultancy support for particular specialisms. Now, here I've just tried to highlight some of the core lessons from the second phase of the Pathfinder program relating to development management. So, development management officers work key to establishing the focus and content of codes, identifying the appropriate scope, and zeroing in on common application problems experienced by DM teams. DM officers were also valuable when onboarding consultants, so they're able to support with drafting clear briefs and helping to target the right sort of expertise to bring in where there were gaps. For these reasons, it is desirable to have a multidisciplinary in-house team, including representation from DM or someone with DM experience. And this can help you understand DM processes and align priorities to inform code development and implementation. Testing is also crucial to further refine and optimize usability, noting that DM teams are a key user group and they will have particular needs. And finally, testing could involve the use of compliance tools, which some of the Pathfinders might talk about today, though it is important to understand what works best for your particular DM teams. And finally, training is also essential, not only to familiarize DM teams with the content of a code, but also to help them understand exactly how that code fits into the decision-making process. So the Pathfinders program has continued through to a third phase, which will be concluding shortly. And through that, we've been continuing to work with the Pathfinders, drawing on the lessons learned from the second phase. This phase has had a greater focus on implementation, including the role of testing and training, how Pathfinders are approaching this, and what's working well. And obviously, pleased to report that a number of Pathfinders have now adopted their codes, are using them in practice, and this includes three of the authorities who will be speaking after me. And I think as the final slide, I just wanted to highlight for those who aren't aware, through the Pathfinder program, we have been working with the Design Council to prepare a suite of learning materials. This includes an evaluation report of the second phase of the program, as well as some more useful tools that authorities might be able to use themselves, including some case studies and some further sort of conversation and insight pieces from the Pathfinders themselves. And we've been able to supplement these through the latest round of learning. So it includes new materials, say, on engagement with DM and wider council teams, resourcing, implementation, and monitoring. And we are hoping to host 3 sessions through PAS with the Design Council in October, just to talk through some of these materials in greater detail for those who might be interested. And I think with that, thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand back over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so lots of really interesting work. I mean, just the the breadth of the Pathfinder authorities involved and the different focus that the design codes have had over the kind of the different stages, if you like, of the Pathfinder program, kind of really interesting. And even with the proposed consultation questions that are in at the moment and the changes within the system, proposed changes within the system, there's lots of learning there, and there's actually lots of really useful things as well to the Design Council, and we'll try and put a little link into the chat function to the work that's coming out from the Design Council, because there's really useful tools in there as well as kind of commentary from the local authorities as well being involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just as a plug to, we're hoping to obviously host some additional training sessions later this year and early next. So hopefully by that point, I'll be able to include some of the sort of further learnings we've taken from this latest phase of the program as well. So just to bring to people's attention.